All right, so we're going to get started here. So welcome. Thank you for attending today's session. Mayo Employees Federal Credit Union, we're presenting today Cybersecurity Safety and Wellness. I'm Stephanie McCraffick. I am Mayo Credit Union's Enterprise Risk Management Specialist and our Certified Fraud Examiner. And today I have joining me Jamie Petty. She is our Technology Specialist and she is our Advanced Cybersecurity Certified. So she's going to be here today just for any questions or to pop in here and there with comments as needed. So today we're going to go through the importance of cyber wellness, understanding cyber threats, some best practices around cyber hygiene, securing personal devices, securing online transactions, and then just some additional resources. So the importance of cyber health. So there's really no one accepted definition of what cybersecurity is or isn't, right? So it's such a broad term that really it's encompassing the processes, technologies that are used to prevent, detect, and respond to attacks against digital data, devices, and systems. So when it comes to cyber health or hygiene, what we're referencing really is those steps that users can take to improve and maintain their system's security and health. And really that adapting a security-centric mindset that's going to really build habits that help mitigate risk. So cybercrime can have a devastating impact, as well as pose a significant threat to your financial security. And when personal data is leaked and gets into the wrong hands, individuals can become victim to identity theft, experience financial losses, or even reputational damage, whereas organizations can suffer both financial and reputational damage. So why is this important? So cybersecurity or cybercrime is common and growing. According to the FBI's Internet Crimes Report here, we're looking at over 880 million cybercrime complaints in 2023 alone. That's just of the ones that were reported. So we're all vulnerable to cyber attack. No one is immune. Technology is always advancing, always increasing, and it's said that there's billions of people that interact with the internet every day, and they're all contributing to that juicy data that cyber criminals want. So cybersecurity is important because it's going to protect all categories of data damage and theft. So we're talking your sensitive data, personal identifiable information, your protected health information, intellectual property, and then we also talk about like government and industry informations and systems. So I want to go through some of the, how it really impacts you as an everyday consumer. So in 2023, there we go, over 350 million victims were reported due to data compromises. That's with report of over 3,000 total compromises. This is in 2023. That is a 72% increase from the 2021 report, which was considered at that time an all-time record. So when we look at cybercrime being at its all-time high and only growing, we're looking at $1.5 trillion are earned by cybercriminals every year. According to cybersecurity experts, 5.9 million was the highest total cost of a data breach for 2023. And 10.5 trillion is the cost that's expected due to cybercrime by 2025. So we're talking big numbers here. So when we look at cybersecurity and cyber attacks, everyone has a different opinion about what's important, what should we be looking at, where are you the most vulnerable. But I really want to focus today on areas that really you can do something about and that really impact you the most, and how you can protect yourself. So we're going to talk through social engineering, phishing, password attacks, man-in-the-middle attacks, malware and viruses, and deep fakes and AI. So when we talk about social engineering is the threat to the human. It is the attack on a human. So they're going to use your psychology, your human nature, to manipulate you to gather information about you. The typical cycle of a social engineer is going to be doing everything they can to gather information about their victim. Then they're going to pose as someone legitimate and really build trust with that victim. Then they're going to go back and gather more information about their victim based on the information they've collected. And then again, they're going to pose as another legitimate source and build trust with another victim. So it's this repeat cycle. And when we look at social engineering, we typically see it in 3 different categories. So we have the use of computers. So this is phishing, which we'll go into in just a minute. Pop-up attacks. So this is going to be when you have a pop-up window that appears on your screen. It could be on like a Microsoft pop-up, or it could be an ad pop-up. And the intent of this is really to download malicious software, attachments, things like that. And then there's the use of a mobile device. So this is smishing, so using your text message. Malicious applications, so when you're downloading applications on your phone, what is that application adding to your device? Is it malicious malware, additional access, things like that? And then there's using humans. This is the smishing, or vishing, sorry, there's a typo there, vishing. So this is using voice communication to gather information. Tailgating. This is when they're going to follow someone into a restricted area to gain access to that area that they shouldn't have access to. Shoulder surfing. So you're sitting in the coffee shop and someone's looking over your shoulders, you're entering your credentials. And then dumpster diving. Looking in dumpsters, trash cans for information like statements, things like that. So phishing is one of the really common tactics of social engineering. And the first and most common is deceptive phishing. These are my fish. So this is my little deceptive fish here. He's what people commonly refer to as like the phishing, right? So this is where the intent is they're going to pose as a legitimate company, and they're going to try to steal your personal information, collect your data, get you to click on a malicious link, using urgent messaging to scare you into doing something to take an action. And these attacks really try to use as much legitimate information as possible and reduce the content so they can avoid detection. Then we have our spearfish. So spear phishing is more targeted emails. They're very specific. They try to use job titles, specific names, phone numbers, company names, things like that to really trick you into believing that they are who they say they are. They utilize a lot of the same tactics as our deceptive phishing, but to really hone in on the audience and try to really create that trust within the message. And then we have our whale phishing. So whale phishing is where they're going to target executives, board members, and high people of influence. And in a successful whaling attack, they will then gain access to like a CEO's login credentials, and they can conduct what's called business email compromises, where they then can pose as the CEO and send messages out to other influential people, trying to do things like wires. And then we have vishing. Oh, my clicker's a little delayed here, sorry. Vishing is that voice communication that I was talking about. So they're going to spoof or mimic phone numbers from trusted sources. Typically we see this like with your phone provider or your financial institution. And they're going to use technical jargon. They're going to talk fast or mumble. And really the goal is they're just trying to get you to accept what they're telling you so they can move their plan forward and collect information, credentials, passwords, financial information. Smishing is when you're using text messages to encourage that communication. Typically the first type of smishing attacks are sent out by chatbots, not real people. AI technology chatbots that are going to send out these messages imposing as your financial institution, your cell phone provider, and then once you start engaging with them, then a real person takes over and moves the forwarding, the conversation, the intent to collect the information. And then last on our list, we have farming. So as more and more everyday consumers become aware of these phishing tactics, they've now moved to farming, which really is going to leverage domain name systems, and they're going to target servers and IP addresses, and they're going to change them so you think you're interacting with a real IP address, but it's a malicious site of their choosing. So when it comes to phishing and spam, there's a lot of confusion with people about, is all spam phishing? What's the difference? So they do have some shared traits. They're usually unsolicited. You didn't expect them. Can be harmful, and they can be illegitimate. Doesn't mean they all are. So when you're looking at, is this just a spam email or is it a phishing attack, consider a few things. So what information are they asking for? Are they asking for credit cards, password numbers, bank account numbers? Phishing typically attack a specific individual or group of people, and they're going to contain really relevant information like your name. They often include malicious links, fake websites, malware to download, and malicious attachments. Typically, they tend to have a sense of urgency, and these ones should be deleted and reported, whether that's to the FTC, your IT person, it should be reported. Spam emails are more typically unwanted advertisement for a product or service. They're really broad, they're going to be sent to millions of recipients. They're going to include links, but often this is to legitimate products and services. They usually don't contain attachments, they usually don't require immediate action, and they can be marked as spam and deleted. With that being said, some spam emails, about 2.3%, are also phishing attacks. It's not all of them, it's just something to be aware of. So when we talk about the next type of cybersecurity threat we look at is password attacks. So this is really the process of obtaining the user's password. So the first is a dictionary attack, and this is the combination, the Cappy on me again. So the dictionary attack here is going to be where there's a list of passwords and characters, and their goal is that they're going to use a method to crack these passwords, trying a bunch of different combinations of words and tokens from a predefined list. And then hopefully that list is going to pick up on a couple of the targets. So here you can see we've got our attacker. A couple of the users, they were able to use that predefined list to get in, one they weren't. Then we have a brute force attack. So this type of attack is going to crack any password. This type of attack is going to crack any password with time. It's really just the two things that can really block this kind of attack is how long it's going to take, and any security measures like limiting the number of login attempts you're allowed that are going to prevent this type of attack. And then we have hash cracking. So passwords are typically stored as hash values. So this is like a string of characters that prevents someone from really easily reading them. And so hash cracking, they're trying to determine what password could have been used to generate that password. Another type of attack that we need to be aware of is the man-in-the-middle attacks. So the goal of these attacks is really to intercept communication between the user and the intended recipient. So for instance, ID spoofing is where you're going to change the source IP to imitate a different IP. This is going to trick you into believing you're communicating with something that's legitimate when really there's an attacker in the middle that's intercepting that communication. Then we have session hijacking. So this is really where they're going to take control of the user's website and intercept that secure connection between them, between the application or the server. So you can see you've got the old connection and the interception between the user and the server. So very similar. And then there's replay. So with a replay attack, data is intercepted, and then it's retransmitted, delayed, or redirected. So really the attacker is going to pose as a legitimate party. They're going to collect that data and manipulate it, and then they're going to send it on to whatever their goals are. Whatever they're trying to accomplish, they're going to send it or forward it or redirect it. So these are probably terms that most of us have heard, right? Malware and viruses. So these are other cyber threats to be aware of. So malwares are going to be software that is specifically designed to cause disruption and mayhem. It's going to leak the data, gather information, give access, and it really can deprive you of the use of your own system. It could also unknowingly be interfering with your computer's security and privacy. So that's why disruption and mayhem are its main goals. And then viruses are really malicious software that their intent is to infiltrate and damage your computer system. So when we look at some of the viruses, we have keyloggers. So keyloggers are designed to collect information that you're typing on your keyboard behind the scenes, like your username and password, without your knowledge. Spyware gather information about you with malicious intent to use that information. Ransomware is going to steal, block, and encrypt your data. So this is, again, when you see that pop-up on Microsoft that's making all that noise, it's screaming at you, might be telling you to do certain things, that's a ransomware attack. Their goal is to make you act. Maybe you have to pay to like protect your computer. And then this is also like if you heard last year during 2023, the Rochester Public Schools and the Minneapolis Public Schools experienced a ransomware attack. That's this kind of attack. And then you have a Trojan horse. This is something that looks innocent, but really has a malicious intent behind it. And then we have adware and spyware. So these are pop-ups or targeted ads that when you click on it's going to download malicious software or grant access to your device. And then we have worms, which worms are really standalone programs, but their intent is to replicate and spread across a whole system of computers or network of computers that are connected and wreak havoc. And then the last cyber threat we're going to talk about is deepfakes and AI. AI impacts our life every day, from your wearable watch that tracks your steps or your health information to the fun interactive social media filters to your camera video that's recording at your front door. AI has a lot of really great things that it does for us on our day-to-day lives, and most of the time we don't even realize we're impacting with it. Where we can get into trouble is when the cyber criminals and fraudsters use it for nefarious purposes. So a deep fake is a hyper-realistic image that is either synthetic or has been manipulated to make the appearance of something happening or someone doing something that they never did or that never happened. And the intent of this is really to misrepresent, mislead, and change the directions of things. In this situation here, I think a lot of people have seen this. This is a fake image of the Pope in this white puffy jacket. You may have also seen, go back and forth, the Pentagon explosion or the White House explosion that never existed. So we've seen these all over social media, and scammers are really starting to dive into this technology and really taking romance scams, investment scams, sextortion scams, all to a new level. Oh, and they're even using it now to avoid judgment. So if a criminal does something, they're claiming like, oh, that was a deep fake, wasn't me. Here we go. So with deepfake images, we're now able to create real people. So I want to do a little exercise here for you. I'm going to use my little clicker, say 1, 2. I want you to tell me which one of these people do you think is real? Number 1 or number 2? 1? You think 2? Okay. Number 1.
Why is number 2 not real?
It's not a real person. It's a completely fake image generated person. All technology. It's not a real person.
The picture must have come from somewhere.
It's technology, AI, deep fake.
Yep, it was generated.
Generated. How about this one? Number 1 or number 2? Anybody want to guess? 2. Okay. Number 1? Yeah. Should my computer, there we go. How about number 1 or number 2? 1, 2, okay.
If they're fake pictures, are they coming from like Facebook? Or
Nope. They are completely fake generated people out of nowhere. Computer generated.
There's a lot of new software out there that can create these images.
Yeah, we'll get there. How about this one? Last one. 1 or 2? 2? Come on. There we go. All right. So when it comes to identifying these images, it can be really tricky. There are some key things you can use to spot these. So when it comes to deepfakes and AI-generated images, you want to look for things like distortions to the image, like missing earrings, missing clumps of hair, maybe an earlobe's weird or missing completely, fingers or digits are missing. In backgrounds, you're going to watch for distortion of like plant life or buildings. If there's signs in the picture, watch for like, sometimes AI generates like completely foreign alien languages on the signs. And then with faces, really kind of right now the tried and true is if you have this like really center of the screen eye level with kind of a inoffensive smile is kind of one of your keys. And when it comes to really testing out if a person is real, the best thing I can say is do your research. Check social media platforms, do reverse image searching, really dig into seeing if you can find and locate the real person. So as technology gets better and better, now we've moved on from just creating fake people to now we can create completely fake voices. So in this clip I'm going to show you here, we have Johnny Cash, which most of you are probably familiar with what Johnny Cash sounds like, and he's going to sing us some newer songs for us today. Ready? 1, 2. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Try it again. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hello, I'm not Johnny Cash. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Oh, come on Barbie, let's go party, 'cause I'm in a Barbie world.
How about some Spice Girls?
If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever, friendship never ends.
And
I
Miley
put my
Cyrus.
hands up playing my song, the butterflies fly away. Yeah, 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 it's a party in the USA. This is what you guys call music?
Not quite exactly. Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where it's getting pretty close, right? So the speech can sound pretty close to the real person, if not exactly like the person. And originally this software and this technology was developed for better user experiences like with Siri. But scammers are taking it to a whole new level, and so is the industry. Now you can take a single photo and a short audio clip of about 3 seconds, and you can get a hyper-realistic video that looks like it's a real live person that you can edit and change the text as you're speaking. And here's a video we're going to start now to demonstrate this.
But you know what I decided to do? I decided to focus all my attention, all my time on listening. So instead of doing something else, I just listened, and listened. Because I'm a true believer that if you're really bad at something like listening, for example, it only shows you that, hey, you have to practice listening as much as you can.
We introduce VASA, a framework for generating lifelike talking faces with appealing visual effective skills, given a single static image and a speech audio clip. Our model is capable of not only producing lip movements that are exquisitely synchronized with the audio, but also capturing a large spectrum of facial nuances and natural head motions that contribute to the perception of authenticity and liveliness. The core innovations include a holistic facial dynamics and head movement generation model that works in a face latent space, and the development of such an expressive and disentangled face latent space using videos.
So I show you this because this one is a legitimate company that is rolling out that people can buy. This isn't what the cyber criminals and the fraudsters are using. Their technology is better. So when we talk about Zoom calls, FaceTime, Teams calls, cyber criminals are taking this to a whole new level with romance scams, email compromises, and their interactions with us on a day-to-day basis. And I don't tell you this to scare you. AI has a lot of great things, and on a fraud fighting standpoint, it does a lot of great things for us to help us catch this. But I share this so you can be aware when you're interacting with people or in situations that you're questioning your communication before you just accept what they're telling you is true and that they are who they say they are. So let's talk about what we can do to protect ourselves and some, cyber wellness best practices. So the first and foremost is going to be on our passwords. We want to make sure we are using strong passwords and changing them often. This may seem overwhelming and daunting, so consider using a password manager to help you take on this task. We want them long, so at least 16 characters. Really unique. Yes?
Where do you get this password manager?
Password manager, we're coming there next. You're one step ahead of me, okay? So you want them really unique. We're going to never reuse, recycle, or share passwords. And you're going to want to use a password phrase. This is something like, Marmaduke is a sloppy dog, and you're going to change some of the letters to special characters or some of the letters to numbers. And then you want them complex, upper and lowercase letters, numbers and spaces, special characters, and try to use random generated passwords. Computers are a lot better at being random than we are. And let's not help them any more than we need to. These are the top 10 most commonly used passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. QWERTY, that's like the first string across your keyboard, the top letters, so you're not being clever by doing across your keyboard as much as we all like to think we are. The scammers know those, okay? As the gentleman up front here mentioned, password managers. So a password manager is a database that's going to store your sensitive credentials for sites, applications, and help you with logins as you need it. This is a safe alternative to saving passwords on unsecured methods. Like on your phone, there's that handy dandy notes app that everybody's phone comes with. Some don't use that. It's not secure, it's not safe. So make sure that you're finding something that is safe and secure. Now, Jamie's going to want to plug her ears as I say this next piece here, because if you are not comfortable with technology, it is safer for you to use a notebook and write your passwords on a notebook at home and put it in a vault. Don't go walking around town with the notebook in your pocket or your passwords in your pocket. Keep it at home, keep it locked up and secure. But if technology is hard for you, it might be safer to just use pen and paper. And I know my cybersecurity people are going to fight me on that one a little bit. But when it comes down to it, it's where you're most comfortable to keep yourself safe. Yes?
How do you know these managers are safe and can't be hacked?
It's a great question. The question was, how do we know they're safe and they can't be hacked? Bear with me 2 more seconds and we're going to come to that, okay? So what they do is they're using a master password. So when you have a password manager, you have to give it a master password. Now, the master password, again, should be long, complex, and not something you're using other places. Completely unique just to your password manager. If you use a password like password or 1234, you are not helping yourself or keeping your password manager safe. You're pretty much voiding out its security right there, okay? And then again, it's always going to help you get unique, more complex passwords because again, computers are better at randomly generating things. So, how do you pick a password manager? How do you know it's secure? First of all, read your consumer reviews, okay? Whenever you're looking to pick a password manager, read the consumer reviews about it. And then know and understand how they're protecting your information. What are their security processes? What are their steps in place that they have? And how do they communicate updates and data breach information? So are they secure? What I will tell you is that password managers like your credit report, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, have lots of juicy data that cyber criminals and fraudsters want. They are not immune to data breaches. They are not immune to attack. Is it secure? It's more secure than a lot of other methods. But the important thing is when you're choosing one is knowing how they're going to communicate what breaches happen, when, and how fast. Because it's going to happen. But it's how they communicate with you so that you can take the action you need to, like changing your master password. When they say, oh, we've had a data breach, we recommend you change your master password, they do that. Some companies are better than others. And consider what features you think are important that you want. Do you want a VPN? Do you want, multi-encryption levels? Like really consider what you're looking for when you're picking one.
I asked Spectrum yesterday about VPN.
Mm-hmm.
And the question they asked me was, do you do a lot of video games and special things on the internet? I said, no, I just use good internet at home. He said, well, then you don't need a VPN.
Okay, So the comment here in the room was that Spectrum, he had asked if he needed a VPN, and they asked questions about his activities with gaming and online, and they told him he didn't need one. What I would say is that your Spectrum representative is not a cybersecurity technician or expert, so they're not the person I guess I would be taking advice from, and I'm going to tell you that we do encourage later on that you use a VPN as one of your layers of defense, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a bit. So a lot of the next questions when we talk about password managers, what people ask are, who should I use, right? What do you recommend? First thing I will tell you, do your own research. These are based on our knowledge and research. This is what we think. Do your own research, pick your own accordingly. But I'll give you a few facts here quick about these 3 services. So KeePass is a free open source and easy to use password manager. They support advanced encryption along with, how do you say it? Rajendale and two-fish algorithms, okay? So this one is a free service that people, use and trust. 1Password, which is my favorite personally. This is the top password pick manager. Over 100,000 companies use it. Their foundation is based upon security. They have unique multi-layered approach to data protection. And they do offer a free 14-day trial, but they have paid plans after that. So that's one you're going to pay for, okay? And then ProtonPass is another good one. They have open source with a free version. They secure passwords and identity with end-to-end encryption. They have unique identity features that can prevent your true email address from showing, so they will mock your email address, like put up a fake one for you and then push it through. And then, again, they offer a free version but also have different paid options. So when we talk about passwords and password managers, another really important best practice to consider and know about is passkeys. So a passkey is a password authentication that's not using a username and password. But what it's doing is it's logging in without that password and using your phone or another support device before letting you into apps or your accounts. So a lot of the security with these happen behind the scenes, but the main benefit of passkeys is they can't be stolen like passwords. So they're currently the strongest form of protection. It's not to mean they will be forever, but they are currently the strongest. And they're a great alternative to passwords. What they do is they have a unique ID that's generated to each specific device, account, app, or website that they interact with. And it's going to bring more resilience to phishing because they're not just getting your username and password to get in. They're private, so they're utilizing your biometric data in combination with a security key that's assigned to each of these passwords or websites that you're interacting with. And that data is actually not stored over there with the company or the website, it's actually stored with you on your device. So it's secure. And then it's considered the future of authentication. So right now you'll see a lot of companies like Amazon, Apple have already started to implement this. Typically passkeys are going to use, or they are using, your fingerprint, your Face ID, your PIN pattern, or your lock on your phone. And then additionally, when it comes to passwords, another layer to add to your security tool belt is multi-factor authentication. This goes by a lot of different names: 2-factor, 2-step, MFA, 2FA, there's a lot of names. So essentially what the company that you're working with is doing is they're adding a secondary layer from your username or password or your passkey to authenticate that you are really you. So this typically comes in one of 3 forms. It's something you know. So they're asking questions about what your PIN is, what's your sister's middle name, or they're going to ask you something you have. So they're going to use an authentication app. They're going to send you an SMS text message or an email on your phone to confirm that it's you. Or there's something you are, so they're going to use your fingerprint or your face biometric data. Okay, so that's kind of passwords in a nutshell, and protection with safe browsing is where we're going to move next. So when we talk about safe browsing, the first thing I want to talk about is Wi-Fi. Okay, so public Wi-Fi networks and hotspots are not as secure as everybody assumes they are. So oftentimes when you're connecting to a public Wi-Fi and hotspot, It's a public system, not private, and it potentially is putting your data at risk. So when we look at the difference, so a private network is going to be discovered only by other devices that are on that network, whereas a public network is connected to anyone and everyone through countless devices and businesses it's open to. So things that put you on risk if you're connecting to public Wi-Fi is if you are installing any system or application update on your phone or your computer while you're on public Wi-Fi. Next is going to be if you're accessing your emails, social media, you're shopping online, or checking your bank account. And lastly is if you configure your device for any time you go somewhere to automatically connect to a public Wi-Fi without you choosing that connection and accepting that connection. Okay? So some ways to keep yourself safe when you're doing it: exercise caution. Always verify that with the provider that you're logging on to, that you have the correct network, you're signing into the right one. When you use public Wi-Fi, always use a trusted VPN. So we're getting a little bit more into that here, but make sure your device is secure and your traffic's secure. And then if you have anything concerning that comes up while you're on the network, make sure you report it to that business or authorities. Whenever possible, use your mobile data service, like 4G, 5G, in preference to Wi-Fi. Now, I don't want you coming back to me later and saying, you told me to use my Wi-Fi or my data, and now my bill is through the roof. You need to know what your plan is, check your data plan, see what's available to you. I'm not telling you to go overspend on your data. But if you have the data, if you have unlimited data, this is the safer option. A couple other notes here is a good rule of thumb is never go onto your financial accounts using public Wi-Fi. And also, not all public Wi-Fi is created equal. So here at the credit union, we have public Wi-Fi that is accessible to our members. But within that, we have very secure, specific things that we do with our Wi-Fi and our network that we are monitoring who's connecting to it and the security and traffic for our members and our staff to keep us safe. So connecting here is not like going to the airport and connecting. So how can we secure websites and networks when we are, browsing online? The first thing you can do is when you're looking at the websites you're visiting, make sure they are HTTPS. S stands for secure versus HTTP. This is because it costs money to get that secured, so scammers are more likely to use the HTTP. It's not all of them, not every time, but they're more likely. Use a VPN. So a VPN is going to mask your IP address, and it's going to reroute your traffic. So it's also going to add a layer of encryption. So you can kind of see here, it creates this little shield between you and the internet, and it protects you from all the different types of hackers. So it's putting like a shield around your traffic, your network, encrypting your data as you're connecting to sources that aren't secure. Anything you want to add with that one?
I recommend everyone use a VPN. I think she pretty much nailed everything.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure.
helps
Okay,
keep your network safe.
perfect. Okay, so then the next piece is going to be encrypting sensitive information. So the VPN does, when you have a VPN, it adds one layer of encryption to your devices. But let's say you have a sensitive document you're sending off. It is highly encouraged that you make sure you put it as a PDF, encrypt it, and then password protect it. Yes, another question up front.
On this VPN, if you have unlimited data, you should use VPN. But if you don't have unlimited data, you go by the gig, and the company recommends VPN, is there usually an extra charge?
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate the question here. So the question is, if you're using unlimited data, do you need a VPN? Versus if you're not using, like if you're on your Wi-Fi, you should use a VPN, and is there extra cost? Does that summarize it?
Well, if I'm on a gig plan, let's say I get 1 gig per month.
Yep, you get 1 gig per month.
I usually use the 1 gig,
Okay.
but I switch my phone to a VPN. Will that company charge me extra for doing that?
So the VPN is not using your data. The VPN is like,
It's just massive.
it's masking it. So what you're doing, so if you sign on to use your data, that is, instead of Wi-Fi, that is what you'd be charged for, is the data usage. And the VPN, whether you're on data or not on data, whether you're on Wi-Fi or whether you're using your data, the VPN is going to protect you in both places.
So no matter what plan you're on, you should be using VPN if it's available.
Yes, no matter what kind of plan you have, I would highly, highly recommend a VPN. Yes, because it's going to encrypt it's another layer of protection between you and the bad guy. Yep. And then the last piece is updating your antivirus regularly. So this is going to help you detect, prevent, and remove viruses and malware from your devices that could be damaging it. It's going to block annoying and dangerous pop-up ads. It's going to scan your systems regularly in real time to make sure that it's moving faster, it's efficient, and it's safe. So next question is on securing our personal devices. What do you look for when you're choosing an antivirus? So with an antivirus, you're going to look for something that has real-time scanning and updates, has the ability to remove infections. It offers protection without decreasing your performance, right? Because you can put all the protection you want, but if your device is slow and doesn't work, you're not going to want to use it. What's your access to support if something happens, and how does that access communicate with you? How does that support communicate with you? So what should you expect for communication? And then what kind of devices are you looking to protect? When it comes to your cell phone, what I will say with antiviruses is that in general, cybersecurity experts, myself as well, when it comes to the everyday consumer, I will 100% always recommend iPhones over Android. Now, Android users, don't come for me. I know you love your Androids, that's great. But the reason I say this is because iPhone is meant for the people that they just want the security without having to mess with things, right? So it's just the security is built in, you have the extra layers of protection there, and there's nothing you can do to turn it off. Whereas an Android, they're really meant for people who have that kind of advanced technology knowledge, or they want to be able to mess with their phones a little bit more and change settings, and you can accidentally turn off really important security features and not know it. So if you do have an Android phone, I would highly recommend looking into some sort of antivirus protection for that phone. You can do it for iPhone as well. So for Defender, you're looking at or for Android, you're looking at Bitdefender, and iPhones, you'd be really looking at more, Total AV. So you can add it to iPhone, not necessary, but. And then for the top rated companies for antivirus for this year based on Forbes Advisor, we're looking at Total AV, Norton, Bitdefender, McAfee, Surface Shark, and Aura, A-U-R-A, Aura. I think that's how you say it. Those are the top ones that are recommended. So the next, we talk about firewall protection. So a firewall provides protection against outside cyber attacks. It's going to shield your computer, your network from malicious and unnecessary traffic. It's going to prevent malicious software from accessing your computer and things that might come in through the internet. So again, it's another layer of defense. If you haven't picked up on this yet, all of this is about layering your defenses, okay? Building that security toolbox and layering in those defenses. When it comes to firewalls, Android and iPhones are both really well equipped with good firewalls. There's really not much more you need to do with the phone. If you are an advanced user and you have very specific cyber concerns, then it might be worth looking into further for you. And then we've talked a little bit about the importance of encryption with VPNs and password protecting documents, but really each and every device has its own types of encryption that it offers for the data on your devices. For example, phones have password locks, password keys, facial recognition. When you have that enabled and on, that is a layer of encryption protecting your phone should it be stolen, lost, confiscated, things like that. If you do not have that functionality turned on, I would highly recommend having it turned on. And the same thing, how long is the timing between when you give that recognition and that ID before it locks itself back up again? So something else to review is how long you let it sit open and available. And, yep, that's good, okay. And then the next spot I just want to cover with personal devices is making sure you're backing up your data. So typically we say you should back up your data every 24 hours. Seems like a lot. At minimum, once a week. This is going to save you a lot of time, headache, stress, and potentially money if something happens. So again, we're looking at multiple ways you can back up your data. So you can use external hard drives, USB flash drives, cloud storage, or there are online backup services you can use. And you can use a combination of those things. So again, when it comes to protecting your devices, we're going to talk about the software updates. It's really important to keep your software and your applications updated and current. This is particularly important if you hang on to like a cell phone for an extended or a computer for an extended amount of time. If that device gets to a point where it's aged out and it can no longer accept current updates, it is time to replace that device because that will leave you open and vulnerable to a lot of malicious attacks. Build in a habit to check for updates on all your devices. And don't rely on those auto updates. It's so easy to turn those on, but it's really, the auto updates are only going to connect and take place when you're plugged in and have a full battery, when you're connected to Wi-Fi. So based on kind of your everyday usage and how you use your devices, it may not be doing the updates as quickly as they need to be. Patches are repairs of pieces of programs that have been told and have known vulnerabilities or issues. It's really important, again, with the software updates, these patches come through to fix things that the companies have been made aware of are security risks and vulnerabilities. As well as they also add new enhancements and features. And then, again, without updating patches on your devices, they're left open and vulnerable to attack. So moving away kind of from our devices, more specifically when we look at online transactions, we're going to look at like how can we do things online the most secure. So we've talked about a lot of this already, but using a secure connection, you know, are you on public Wi-Fi, are you private, are you using your data? Do you have strong passwords in place for the accounts that you're using and accessing? Have you enabled two-factor authentication across all of the websites, all of the platforms, anywhere that offers it? Shop with reputable retailers. So this is a big one. So make sure that you are looking up reviews on the company, checking BBB, searching the company. I like to Google the company and write like scam next to it to see what comes up and see if there's any information that comes up of people reporting scams against the company. And then beware of sponsored links. So when you Google a company, you're like, I need Amazon tech support. The first thing that comes up is going to be a sponsored link. This is paid advertisement. And oftentimes, scammers will go out and they will make fake websites and then pay for the advertising of this fake website. So it will be bumped to the top, the first search point you have, and it's going to be the first one you click on. So I would advise to never click on the sponsored link, scroll down a little further, look for the company you're going to and double check, do they have the HTTPS? And is it the exact name of the company you're looking for? Or is it Amazon with the O is changed to a 0? So things to watch for. And then always use a credit card. When you're shopping online, credit cards have built-in consumer protection. They offer disputes for things that you order that don't show up what you're expecting, like ends up being a knockoff of something, or they have fraud prevention services that can look through fraud and help reimburse for fraud. If you use services like cryptocurrency, wires, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, these services don't have as many consumer protection rules, if any at all. The person-to-person payment services like Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, they are not designed to be consumer friendly. They are designed like giving a cash to a stranger. Really, they're meant for people you know or somebody you're standing in front of, like I'm buying a plant from you, I'm gonna Zelle you, $6 for this plant because I already have the plant in my possession and I'm standing in front of you. They're not meant for online transactions.
This question just came up last week when my daughter wanted me to transfer some money to her through Zelle, I believe. And when I looked into it, it only asked for her telephone number.
So the question is, they had looked at Zelle last week and it only asked for their telephone number. Yes. So with Zelle, when you set up a Zelle account, Zelle specifically is mostly through financial institutions, unless they use the standalone app, but mostly it's through financial institutions. And to set it up, you just need a phone number or an email address, and that's how they make the connection. Because on the back end,
How do I know they're getting it?
you don't.
You take that risk.
You take that risk. That's why, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's why I say Zelle is like giving cash to a stranger, because there's no like recovery for you. It's gone. So that's why it's, make sure you double check her phone number's right. So when it comes to family, it's the first time, friends or family, that I'm sending it. I usually send a test transaction of like $1. And then I'll be like, did you get my $1? And they'll say, yeah, I got it. I'm like, okay, good. Now I know the connection's good. It got to the right place, and then I'll send what I was intending to send. So. And then the last point here is going to be utilize transaction alerts or order alerts. So your financial institution has all kinds of transaction alerts that you can use: balances, when online banking has been logged into, when your balance transaction is processed. And a lot of companies have these also, that you can set up order alerts. Now again, when you're using order alerts, be cautious if it's coming to your email inbox. If you're expecting it, I always still go back to the source. So I go back to the website or the app and sign in and look at the alert versus clicking on it in my email. But they're a really great tool and resource to help monitor your transactions online and things as they're going through. And then as we moved on, my last point touched a little bit on email safety. So the biggest thing is recognizing those phishing attempts. So we talked about the different types of phishing tactics. So how can you recognize them? So the first thing is, if you were not expecting it, don't open it and verify it. Use another method of communication, like a phone call, text message saying, hey, did you send this? We are now in a spot where we can no longer really trust our communication that comes to us before we use it. We need to verify it before we trust it. And the next thing to really look at is, does it create any kind of strong emotional reaction? That could be fear, it could be panic, it could be like, oh my gosh, I don't remember signing up for that, or I don't want to get charged for that. Any type of that, or like, oh, I won. Anything that creates that really like kind of excitement that triggers our emotional brain to take over. And then if it seems too good to be true, it is. Like really, when it seems too good to be true, that's the biggest thing to notice, is it is. And then handle all emails, text calls, everything is suspicious until it can be proven as legitimate. And if you do take an action, like if you click on something or open an email message or something seems wrong, contact IT support right away. And what I mean by IT support, I am not talking about your friend or your neighbor down the road who's good with computers. Those people are amazing, right? And they help us with a lot of things. But when it comes to stuff like this, you need someone like Jamie who is in this every day. It is her degree, it's her expertise, and they know what they're looking for. They're the ones that are going to keep you safe and secure. Another key thing here we like to say is slam the scam. So when you're looking and inspecting your emails, look at the sender. Is the email address like authentic, or is there one character that's just off? Or is the font in the email address is just one character of the font different? They get really tricky with those. Inspect all links. Hover over them without clicking on them. Are they going to take you to where they're expected to take you?
Here's a question for you.
Another,
I
yeah.
get these emails, and let's say John Smith is in my church group,
Yep.
and he sends me an email. He said, you really need to look at this article, and it's hyperlinked. I don't want to click on that article yet, but I click on his name, and up comes a different name altogether.
Yeah.
By clicking on his name, does that give that sender any information?
Jamie?
Not necessarily just clicking on the sender's name.
When I see it's not from John Smith, then
You deleted it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So for the online audience, the question was, when you get an email from somebody you think you might know who it is, you're not clicking on the link yet, but you're hovering over the email address to see who that is, or clicking on the email address. And will clicking on that email address lead you to somewhere bad? And Jamie had said she didn't think so. That was probably safe to do. So then inspect those links carefully. Are they really directing you to where they say they are? And if there's multiple links in a message, do they all direct you to the same place? Or are they directing you again to where they say they're going to direct you? Inspect attachments. Does the attachment make sense? Should it be there? Again, don't open them if you're not expecting it. And then really look at the message content itself. Is there misspellings? Is the grammar weird? With AI, I can tell you now that this is getting harder and harder to count on this method of looking for grammar and spellings and things like that, because AI can generate really nice emails for you. So just look for, does it seem too good to be true? Like I said before, review the content of the message. And pay attention to the email address a lot, yes. All right, so let's go on to talk about social media and privacy. When we talk about social media, the first thing that I want to make you aware of is looking at your privacy settings. Are you aware of who has access to your information? What information they have access to? Is your profile set for public or is it private? Are all of your posts set for public or private? Because you can fine-tune all of those settings. And then also looking at your friends. If your friend has all of their posts and content set as public and they tag you in things, then that makes you public. And all that information that's on that post and related to you is public. So they can really leave you open and vulnerable just through your friends. So the National Cybersecurity Alliance has this really amazing list. It goes through medical providers, financial institutions. What else is on there? Let me look here. There's a lot. Apps, health places, dating, food delivery, e-commerce platforms, social media sites. It will tell you and walk you through step-by-steps all of the privacy settings and how you can adjust them and make them more secure. It's a really great resource. So the next thing when it comes to social media is limiting or restricting app permissions and third-party apps. A lot of the times when we interact on social media, we might play a fun game or take a fun quiz, and they're going to ask you for permission to connect to your profile. Well, when they do that, you are now exposing all of your data and your community's data that you're connected to that platform and to that provider that's asking for it. Same thing if you're setting up like a MyFitnessPal account, and they're saying, oh, you can log in with Facebook. So when you link that MyFitnessPal to your Facebook, the data is syncing. So just make sure you're regularly reviewing what third parties are accessing your social media platforms and what data that's leaving open and vulnerable. Same with location sharing. A lot of these apps automatically share your location. You can even say like, I'm in Cancun, and tag where you are. And this can have a lot of security risks, right? So if you're posting on social media and you're in Cancun and it's saying that, well, now the scammer knows that your house is open, you're not home. When we talk about human trafficking and human crime, these types of apps are really bad for people to be trafficked and targeted for trafficking and kidnappings, including kids. And then sharing personal information online. So data breaches, compromises are not doing us any favors, right? The most personal, intimate pieces of ourselves, our likes, our dislikes, our hobbies, the things we're super passionate about, everything we share on social media, are typically the things that we're using for our passwords and are very unique things about us. And the more you post that kind of stuff on social media, the more information you're putting out there for these scammers and cyber criminals. And I know at one point in our lives we've all heard, when it's out there online, it's out there forever. So it's just really something to consider every time you're responding to, oh, check these boxes. How many of these places have you visited? Or here's a list of 20 things that I want to see if you've done in your lifetime. Some things to consider. And then again, we've talked about that private internet connection. It's really important when you're accessing social media to make sure that you're doing it on a private network. Again, that way you don't have anything intercepted or your account taken over, and then the account takeover leads to other social engineering attempts to your friends and family. Now we're at our knowledge and resource. So this is just really quick. I can leave this one up here because our next slide is questions. But when you need to report scams or suspicious activity, and these companies have a lot of great details, data, resources. Internet Crimes Complaint Center with the FBI, ic3.gov. #1 place you should report any type of scam, cybercrime, anything to. FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Better Business Bureau. When it comes to a specific business that you're working with, it's really important to make sure you're reporting to them. To continue to build cybersecurity awareness, you can go to CISA, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. That's a mouthful, but they're a really great resource. AARP Fraud Watch Network. AARP is not just for people of aging status. They are a really great resource. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. And then NCUA, My Credit Union Network, has some really great resources on it as well. So I will say we are at time, but I will open up the floor to questions. I'm willing to hang around and answer questions. For the folks online, if you have questions still, you can type them in. We're here. We're yours. What do you got? Up front.
How do you get rid of unwanted emails?
How do you get rid of unwanted emails? I'm going to turn that one over to Jamie.
Sadly, the answer to that is you can't get rid of unwanted emails. You just have to delete them and report them as spam.
So delete and report as spam. You cannot get rid of unwanted emails, unfortunately.
Yeah, they'll always come depending on what sites you visited, emails that you've sent out. But yeah, the answer is there's no way to stop them. You just have to delete them and mark them as spam.
If they are marked as spam, does it usually come up report and delete?
The question is, if it's marked as spam, does it come up report and delete?
Yes, it does. It will give you that option to report and delete.
Okay, other questions? Yes.
Say you find yourself in the middle of what we now know that is a scam going on.
Mhm.
I was told that you should, everybody, I think we all know that we should stop being images.
Mhm.
I was told recently that if you hit control alt delete, that will stop the further going forward with the scam. Is that true versus shooting your laptop or phone or whatever all the way up?
So the question is, if you're in the middle of a scam happening, your computer's going crazy, if you hit Control Alt Delete versus turning your computer power all the way off, will that work?
Control delete won't necessarily. Yep, Control delete won't necessarily stop that connection. I would either turn off your computer completely or disconnect it by the cables to stop that connection.
I always tell people unplug it from the wall. Pull the power, pull the plug, just take it out. Yep. Any other questions? Anything online? Okay. Go ahead.
I did have an instance a few years ago where I felt I was being scammed by this. They wanted to give me a protection package for my Apple computer, and it got to the point where they were going to charge me like $300 and some. So I said, no, I don't think so. And I found out it was a scam while I was talking to this person. And they turned the camera on me
Mm-hmm.
and more or less threatened me to pay the fee, so I shut off the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And I called Apple, and they were very good about going through my whole computer
Mm-hmm.
and going list for list on everything that should have been deleted and gotten rid of.
Yep.
So it's good information for anybody with an Apple.
Yeah, so there was an incident where somebody had ransomware, malware on the computer, and they were offering a package to protect the computer, and it was a scam, and then they turned around and started extorting and threatening and wanting money. We unplugged the computer, and then he went to the legitimate Apple. Great step to take, and Apple was very helpful in making sure they clear the computer and walk you step by step. Yep, Apple's really good. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Okay, well, we will be here for questions afterwards. We thank you for coming, and we hope you found this valuable.